farther away into that. And also while doing that, if I'm depending upon certain funds, what is the timeline from which it is going to provide me the fund? Because I may say, okay, I will do certain research wherein I will have the signals from the brain captured and then analyze it further. But when I talk about capturing the signal from the brain and then analyzing it, I need the equipment. How I'm going to purchase that equipment? Who is the funding agency? Does my university or the institution provides me with all that setup, whether it is already existing? So while defining the problem statement and creating your research design, you have to take all these parameters, because when you present any problem statement to any committee, they will definitely appreciate the thing that you want to do, but only that appreciation will be for time being if you are not able to proceed with it, because you have to understand that when I go for my actual formation of blueprint of the research over there, that is my research design, I may come across various things. So I have a timeline to finish my research in 2 years, and it should not take 5 years over there, because if dependency increases, we have to understand that you will be a single person associated, or you will be set of people associated into research, and then how this time frame and resources are to be looked upon for your research design. So a small example I'll take, so that whatever components that we have seen over here, we are able to relate it with the help of example. So in this example, we'll take a very simple exercise where we'll investigate the relationship between the exercise habits and mental well-being among the college students. So we will see that whatever the college students are there, that how their exercise habits and mental well-being is going to help them. Now, once your research objective is clear, you need to have to do certain amount of literature review, because this literature review is actually going to form the basis of your research. There you are going to come to know that how you are going to conduct the research design, and that how various other people did it, and what all precautions, what all resources I will be requiring if I want to go on to the similar line, and what new I am going to contribute. So literature review is one of the very important aspect of your research, where you conduct a comprehensive review of the existing literature on the relationship. Now in this example, between the exercise and the mental well-being among the students. Now then you will be able to establish that yes, in literature I have found that these two variables are related, and who else have done study into this, and how did they proceed. So how did they proceed? So always researchers, good researchers, they share both the experiences, the results that they have obtained and the constraints they faced while they conducted that particular activity. So the moment you read such good papers, you come to know that which path you should proceed for your research in this particular area. So whenever you read any literature review, you have to understand that literature review is going to be an guiding path for you, from all those people who have already worked into that area, and referring to their work and proceeding there further actually strengthens your research that you constitute. Now here, if suppose for example, if I am going to review your research work, the first thing that I will go and see is what are the references that you have used to conduct your research. Means I'll read your abstract, and then later on your entire thesis or your entire synopsis will be a secondary part for me. First of all, what I will go and see is that what all references you have gone through, and relating it to your topic, in which year references you have taken, what is the source of that references. That gives a clear idea about what in-depth analysis you have done, or what in-depth literature review you have done to conclude to your problem statement, and then to proceed into the proper direction. So literature review is very important. It also helps you to identify what are the relevant theories, concept, previous research findings that will be useful for you when you create your own research design. Next is the research question. You have to develop specific research question based on literature review, such as in this case, What is the association between frequency of exercise and mental well-being among the college student? Or it can be, how does the type of exercise relate to the mental well-being? For example, if you're doing something like into aerobics, then you may say that some loud music is playing and you're doing aerobics. If you're doing yoga, probably you may say that, okay, let me sit into some yoga poses, let me do yoga, which is helping me to have my inner concise defined and concentrate onto it, and then actually it is contributing to the mental well-being. There are so many parameters the moment you start upon looking at, because my term was there very general exercise, but now which exercise, now it helps me to think about more further how I need to go on defining the things. Again, when it comes to population, then what is the gender, age differences in relationship between the exercise and the mental well-being? All these components are going to matter over there. A person who is doing exercise in the age of 20, a person who is doing exercise in the age of 40, a person who is related to exercises, is because now this is related only to the students. But again, if we take a broader picture, then we may have a lot of age differences where we need to focus on also. But in this case, we'll restrict it to the students, say for example in the age group of 18 to 25. Now, once your research questions that you have thought about comes out, now what approach you are going to adopt to determine the appropriate research approach? It can be something like, in this case, a quantitative research approach that will help you to get some numerical data onto the exercise habits and the mental well-being scores. Then you will check out for the sampling. Now here the target population are college students, so you can take up certain sampling methods like random sampling or stratified sampling. Again, you can consider factors as we discussed right now about the age, gender, socio-economic background, and ensure the diversity and representation. Because whenever we do research, remember one thing, that you have to have a set of assumptions that are very clear while you create your research design, because everything cannot be incorporated into the solving of the problem statement that you have framed. You have to have a very clear clarity onto what set of assumptions you have laid down. Assume, because if you keep everything variable, the things will become very difficult to justify over there. You need to fix certain parameters, you have to make certain assumptions over there, and based on that assumptions, probably it will help you to decide that what should be your sampling strategy over there. So these assumptions are very important when you go to define the research problem. Then comes your data collection. Now, data collection in this case can be the exercise habits, where you can say that you are going to develop a questionnaire to collect data onto the exercise habits. You can include the frequency, duration. You can have a simple table and you can start collecting the data. But before data collection, you have to ensure that whatever data you are going to collect, you will be able to gain insight into the data. Because if your form is very clumsy, it is not clearly defined, you yourself after getting the data will not understand what you have to do and what insight you have to gain out of this data. So you have to be very particular in understanding that how you are going to create this questionnaire, because your questionnaire has to be established in such a way that you are able to validate means what we are going to validate your research objective, and why anybody should depend upon your findings or accept your findings. That reliability has also to be ensured. So when you define your problem statement and when you go for data collection, your questionnaire has to have an established validity and reliability in that sense. Now, again, when it comes to mental health being, there can be various standards which are already available. Now, this is one example we have taken, but for any of the research problem, usually you'll see that there are certain standardized data sets, there are certain standardized tools which will help you to do measurements. So in this case, we see that Warwick Edinburgh mental well-being scale is also available, which is a standard for measuring the participants' mental well-being. So whenever we are taking any problem statement, our literature review will help us to understand that what are the standard data sources available, what are the standard measures that are available, who has used that, can I use the same one, then further how I need to make any changes to that particular data, or collect newer set set of data and have different new measures for measuring the things, because until and unless you have certain standards in front of you, you may not be able to justify the outcomes that you have received into your research problem solving. Again, here also we are going to take into consideration the ethical considerations. We started with the components of research design, and in components of research design we saw that what are the major components, and with this example we are seeing that how we are going to achieve or understand these components. So here when we are looking at the information that has been collected from the participants, we need to take ethical approvals from the relevant authorities and ensure that certain consent forms, disclaimers, whatever information that you are taking, you are ethically taking the data and safeguarding the participants' confidentiality and privacy, because that is very, very important. When you go into any organization also to collect the data, again here I'll share my experience over there, that when I was doing my research, I wanted the software design from most of the prominent organizations. I approached, they entertained me very well, but when it came to give me that design is actually their business, and how they will give it to me. If they have to give it to me, then I had to produce university letter where that designs will not be exposed anywhere. It will be used only for the purpose of research, and probably constrained only to me. Nobody else is able. Even when I present my research, I will take metrics, I'll extract metrics from that, but that research design will not be exposed to anybody. So these ethical considerations are very, very important, and you need to go through a lot of process. So when you are defining the problem statement, you have to take into consideration all such ethical aspects, and if you find that there can be certain limitations, you have to take a different also, because if it's a data which is more confidential in nature, and if you find that you may have difficulty in obtaining data, you better at the research design phase itself decide that you are going to change the path. You may not get into this kind of data level, because it all requires a lot of connections when it comes to acquiring confidentiality of the data. Then once you have your data, your procedures, everything you have done with your use certain appropriate statistical tools. For example, you can go for performing certain correlation analysis here to examine the relationship between exercise habit and well-being. You may conduct subgroup analysis to explore potential gender or age differences. All so there can be many things that you can think about, and from that point of view you start analyzing your data. And once you have analyzed your data, your next task will be to interpret the results of the data analysis, considering the research question and the relevant theories. Now, the research questions you have, the relevant theories is from your literature. And now when you are analyzing the data, now you have to take the support of all those things, and then you have to interpret your results. You have to discuss the implication of the findings and draw conclusions based on the evidence obtained. So whatever the evidence that you have got, you have to produce it. You need to have to draw conclusions based on the evidence that have been obtained, and whatever you have obtained is based on the data that you have collected. So you have to be very careful about the data collection procedure that you have gone through. You have to identify the limitation of the study. Often when you do your research, your main finding everybody will accept it, but when how good researcher you are comes to focus, the immediately you yourself are in a position to tell the limitation. Often students try to hide the limitations in their research. That doesn't give a good impression. When you yourself produce the limitation of your research, because your research is based on assumption, whenever you are going to present your research, you speak very clearly about these are the assumptions in my research, and when you present it at the end, you come with the conclusion that these are the limitations in marriage. So why these limitations are there? You should be able to justify your limitations, and then you have to give the suggestion for a future research. And here I would particularly like to say that always remember that as a research student, when you're working, often it will be you individual who will be doing the research. So while you're setting the research objective for yourself, while you're doing your research design, understand that it is a one-man show that is going to do. Then look at the resources that are made available to you, and then you have to come across the actual research designing conclusion that you're going to do it. And if there are any limitations, you should be very fair enough to define all the limitations, and then you can suggest it into the future work. So whatever you can do, you have to project it, and this future work becomes a guideline for other researchers, like somebody who is next to you who is doing the research and is interested into the same domain. He will get a clarity onto that, yes, this is the future scope and I should go into doing research with this. So you yourself also as a student, when you're looking for certain problem statements, while you read any good articles, research papers, just focus onto the future work that those researchers have mentioned over there. That gives you, and also while reading the paper, just look at in which year that has been proposed. So if you go into the recent papers, you can get a very good research problem into the future research that has been proposed. So here we see, by following a systematic approach, researchers can ensure a well-structured and a rigorous research design that addresses, most importantly, is your research objective. Then it collects the relevant data, how the procedures are going to have a meaningful findings regarding, in this case, the relationship between the exercise habit and the mental well-being among the college students. So with this example, we come to know that when we take our problem statement is looking at certain set of variables. It is looking at the research objective. It is seeing that how it will be fulfilled and what steps minimum that I have to follow when I need to reach to the conclusion in this particular research. So when you take into account all those things, probably uh, we are in a position to have our research design or the blueprint available for us. Definitely you may go into revision of this blueprint with more and more reading that you go through, but that will help you out. But whatever problem statement you are doing, your research design will be more and more stronger the moment you do lot and lot of reading. The more and more research papers you read, I'll request that please mute yourself. There's some sound at the background. Organizer, I will request you to mute the participant. Hello.
Yes. Ma'am, we will do it. Just give me a minute.
Yes, ma'am, you can continue. The participant is now muted.
Professor Chitra ma'am, can you please unmute yourself, ma'am?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible now.
Okay. Is the screen visible?
Yes, yes, screen is visible, ma'am.
I was audible till here.
Yeah, now we can hear you, ma'am.
I was audible till here.
Yes. No, for some time you were not audible. Now you are audible, ma'am.
Okay, just let me know because now I have the entire screen displayed on me, so I did not come to know that
Yes,
I got.
yes, sure. Sure.
So in case if there's some problem, let me know, or you can give me a call also in case you face any problem.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Sure.
So when here we saw that there are when we relate these various components together, the basic objective of our research design is that we have a systematic approach where researchers can ensure a well structured and rigorous research design that addresses the research objectives. Then we have also seen that how we'll collect the relevant data. Then in this example, we see that how the relationship between the exercise habits and mental well-being among the college students are attained. Now coming to the types of research design. In types of research design, There are different types like exploratory, descriptive, experimental, and evaluation. So we'll see one by one what this exploratory research design means. See, the word exploratory itself tells us that we are exploring a problem statement over there. Now, usually, whenever we look at this exploratory kind of research design, it basically refers to the research methodology that is used to gain insight and understanding of topic or phenomenon when little is known about it. Particularly, the concept of exploratory data analysis is seen in the data science phase. Maybe if there are certain participants from the computer background, they must have heard about this exploratory data analysis and all those things. So here also it means the same thing, that given a problem statement to you or given an area of research to you, you have been asked to explore with a little information about that research problem, and then you start getting more and more insight into it with your innovative ways of finding out the solutions to it. It is often conducted generally in the early stage of research project or when the research problem is not well defined. So whenever we say that I'm going for an exploratory research design, means probably your area of research is such that you still require time to understand that how you're going to formulate your research problem. And in such stages, a lot of exploration is required into that case. Maybe before you come to your actual problem statement, you may take a year period of time to explore the various aspects into your area of research and then come to the problem statement. Also, the primary objective of this research, exploratory research, is to explore and generate hypotheses or ideas rather than to test specific hypotheses. Like if you say that, let me take one example of an area into medical field where you are going to arrive or generate an hypothesis based on to the symptoms of that particular disease, then in that case probably the exploratory research design may be an appropriate way to proceed into it. One has to understand that when it comes to exploratory research design, it is quite it has to be quite flexible. It should have an open-ended approach because researcher has to gather a lot of preliminary information. It has to do a lot of pattern and trend identification in itself, and then uncover new insights into it. And after uncovering that new insight into it, probably now the researcher might be in a position to arrive at the research problem that he actually needs to work on to it. So an exploratory research helps in formulating research questions. It helps in designing more focused studies and developing hypotheses for further investigation. So we can say that often when we are in the pre-synopsis phase, the area of research demands that we do some research onto it, then yes, that can be then a right way to proceed towards your research goal. When we look at the exploratory research design, it is also important to note that this design does not aim to provide conclusive or generalizable result, because here we are into the pre-phase. We are not here to conclude this is, because we are in the formulation of the hypothesis. We are not at the testing of the hypothesis. So in this case, we have to understand this difference, that if somebody asks you that what is the research you have in your research methodology course, you have studied different types of research design. So what is the research design you are applying? And if you say exploratory, then you have to understand that what is your limitation over there, that you are not going to say that yes, with this I am going to end up with my results, because generally exploratory research are not used for any conclusive or generalizable results over there. It will be more useful into your phase where you are in a process of identifying the hypothesis. Instead, it serves, as I said, that starting point for further investigation and hypothesis generation. And the findings from exploratory research can guide the development of more focused studies, such as you can go for descriptive, correlational, or experimental design to validate and test the generated hypothesis. Now, how this exploratory design works, we'll go through one example, and then it will be more helpful for us to understand that when we talk about the exploratory design, actually how we should proceed into it. So let us take an example where we imagine a researcher is interested in understanding the experiences and challenges faced by first generation college student in their transitions from high school to college. Okay, I missed the word college over there, so just make a correction. So what is our objective? We are going to we are interested in understanding the experiences and challenges faced by the first generation college students in their transition from high school to college. So we want to explore the factors that will contribute to their academic success and identify potential support mechanisms. This will be our objective. And the researcher could employ exploratory research design by conducting semi-structured interview with a small sample of first generation college students. So now see, we understood that what is the research design, and now we are understood what is exploratory design, and we have taken this problem statement in front of us, wherein our objective is that we are going to identify the factors that contribute to the academic success and identify the potential support mechanism to handle the experiences and challenges that are observed into the college student while they are transiting from the high school to the college. So the interviews would be allowed to the researcher to gain insight into the student personal experiences, perceptions, and difficulties encountered during the transition. So here the researcher is now going to focus onto the interviews with the students. Now, during the interview, the researcher could ask very open-ended questions. Now, what can be this kind of questions like, can you describe your experiences transitioning from high school to college as a first generation student, or whether you have some challenges during the transition period? What factors do you believe contributed to your academic success? Where there or resources that are particularly helpful to you. Now these, if you see, these are very descriptive kind of questions, and when the interviewer is asking these questions, whatever the responses that are being captured will be helping him out to explore the research problem and then conclude at the hypothesis. So when you are creating your questions for interviews design, you should understand that whatever question you are going to ask and the responses that are going to be captured will help you to explore the research problem and then lead to the conclusion. Now the researcher would analyze the quantitative data obtained from the interviews, looking for common themes, patterns, or unique insight provided by the participants. So now this entire data is available with the researcher, and he is looking for the patterns and unique insight. And while you are collecting data through interviews, one has to be like one question may lead to insight to into a problem statement and generate further more questions. So here you cannot say that okay, you can have your basic questionnaire ready, but probably when you are speaking to particular participants, that may help you to gain more insight and refine your questionnaire over there so that you capture more insight into this. So the findings that are generated would be helpful for you to generate the hypothesis and develop more focused research question, which will help you in this example for supporting the first generation college student. Now, in this example, we have illustrated that how exploratory research design through interviews and then qualitative analysis can provide a deeper understanding for a specific topic, phenomena, generative insight, and maybe it will help to inform future research or practical intervention. The second type of research design is the descriptive research design. In the descriptive research design, the aim is to describe or document the characteristics, behavior, or conditions of a specific population or phenomenon. So your aim is that you take your problem statement and you start to have the aim to describe or document the characteristics, behaviors, and conditions. It focuses on providing accurate representation of the existing state or the status quo. It employs quantitative methods such as surveys, questionnaires, and observational studies. and it involves collecting data from representative samples and summarizing the findings using statistical measures such as mean, frequency, or correlations. And descriptive research does not involve manipulation of variables or establishing cause and effect relationship. That is in the another type. So we have to be very clear that when we say descriptive research design, it is not going to involve any manipulation of variables or establishing cause and effect relationship. Basically, experimental research design will involve the manipulation of independent variables to examine the cause and effect relationship. So here when we look at different types of research design, this helps us to demarcate the difference between the different types of research design. So whenever you say that you are going to involve the manipulation of independent variables, you are going to examine the cause and effect relationship, understand that you are having an approach of experimental research design. Why this is important? Because again, when you are in front of a committee to represent your research and which research design you are following, then often if you don't have a clarity on understanding that what each research design focuses on, probably you may go wrong in defining the approach that you are adopting over there. So in experimental research design, the aim is to determine the impact of one or more variable on the dependent variable while controlling for the extraneous factors. So this extraneous factors can be many factors, which with example again I will see further. And in experimental designs, more often we are focusing on to the impact of one variable to the another. So we know that we have dependent variable, we have independent variable. So how these independent variables are impacting the dependent variable, to what extent, and then our graphs and all those each other. It includes control groups and at least one experimental group where participants are randomly assigned. It also allows researchers to make causal inferences by comparing the outcomes between the groups. It is also conducted often into laboratory settings or in real world context and involves quantitative data analysis also. Now, because we are dealing with experimental research design, there are a lot of inherent principles that are associated with this experimental research design. And while formulating often most of us, we will be interested in, okay, once we have done with our exploratory, if required, if we have done with our exploratory research design, later on if we have a mixed approach, we may go for the descriptive also. But often most of the researchers, they involve the experimental research design into it, and in this principles, that is principle of randomization, principle of replication, and principle of local control. So let us see one by one that what this principle mean. With the help of example, again we'll try to understand this, and again I'll request that each of you, when you look at this examples, you try to think about your own research problem and then think how the things are related to it. So when we talk about principle of randomization, it is a fundamental aspect of research design, particularly which is related to the experimental studies and refers to the process of randomly assigning participants or subjects to different groups or conditions in order to minimize the bias and increase the validity of research findings. So you have a population in front of you. From that populations, you are going to collect the samples, and while collecting the samples, if the sample collection is random, probably that random sample collection will help you to identify the different groups from the samples that you have selected, and it will definitely be useful for you to ensure that, because there was a random selection, you have ensured to minimize the bias and increase the validity of research finding. Because if I say, okay, let me take something into a sequence 1 2 3 4 5, then probably 1 2 3 4 5 may have something very common into it, and it may have less it may have more biases, more commonalities, and therefore more biases into it, and probably it may not speak about the whole of the population. So this principle of randomization is very, very important. Whenever we talk about this randomization, the basic objective of randomization is that minimizing the biases. Now, what we mean by minimizing the biases is that whatever the characteristics and attributes, if we are selecting, for say, for example, in case of a participant, we have to ensure that all these are equally distributed between the different groups or conditions. For example, suppose if I say, like in case of say, if you are doing certain project where you have 1,000 samples with you, or you say your population has your number is of 1,000, and out of those 1,000 I want to form a subgroup of 200 each. So I need to create 200 samples out of it, 5 samples out of it of 200 each. Now, how I'm going to distribute? Am I going to take a scale and say for this first 200 will come into first group, then the second 200? No. If I take a random distribution into it, probably I will be able to capture the groups which have equally distributions across the different 5 groups over there. By randomly assigning the participants, the influence of compounding variable or biases that may affect the outcome variable goes on minimizing, and this increases the internal validity of the study. Internal validity, I'll come into detail to what it means over here, but right now we have to understand that when we want to increase the internal validity of our study, if we want to check onto the compounding variables and the biases, then we need to see that the for minimizing the biases, the random principle of randomization is observed. Also, when it comes to group comparability, that you have different groups and you want to see that what are the known and unknown variables into it, this randomization is going to help you out, because it is going to give you the accurate assessment of the effects of the independent variable and the dependent variable, and it will also going to help you understand the differences that you observe between the groups, which may attribute, for example, say to some treatment or intervention rather than just pre-existing differences among the participants. Another component that we need to consider in the principle of randomization is the statistical analysis. We have to see that the randomization supports use of statistical analysis for the data analysis, and it is also helping the researcher to use inferential statistics to determine the differences that have been observed between the different groups in a significantly statistical manner. And while we say that we are doing principle of randomization, the statistical analysis will help us to define at the end that the study findings are more about of the generalized nature and can be applied to the broader set of population. Again, we'll see that when we look at this principle of replication and generalization, over there, when it comes to generalization, our major objective is to understand that if I am doing certain study onto a set of samples, that means I am reflecting a generalized view about that particular population. So if you are doing on the sample set, that sample has to be strong enough to represent the population over there. So in the principle of randomization, that also is very, very important. Then probability theory, because with randomization is based on the principle of probability, we see that by assigning participants randomly to different groups, researchers are able to make probabilistic statements about the effects of the dependent and the independent variable. It is also helpful to estimate the likelihood of certain observed results that are being created. Third component that comes into the principle of randomization is the control group. Randomization facilitates the creation of control group, which serves as a comparison group and does not receive the intervention. So while we talk about the control groups, we have to understand that the researcher has to assess effect by comparing it with the outcome into the control group, because when we say intervention is taking place into the control group, it means into a group means what, that there are certain factors which are affecting the general understanding of the problem statement. Now you are creating intervention into it and then working out. Now when we say that randomization facilitates the creation of control group, where we say that the comparison group does not receive the intervention, that means we will be having two groups. One is the control group which is having the intervention, and another one is the group which is not having the intervention, and then we are looking at the impact onto that. So random assignment helps to ensure difference between the intervention group and the control group, and can be attributed to intervention rather than the other factors. Also, when it comes to principle of randomization, external validity is very important, because randomization, it enhances the external validity by increasing the generalizability of the findings to the broader population. So when participants are randomly assigned, the study results are not likely to be applicable to the wider range of the study results are more applicable to the applicability of the wider range of individuals and settings, as we discussed that what we mean by the generalizability over there. So it is important to note that randomization does not guarantee a complete elimination of biases or confounding variables. So when we are talking about the principle of randomization, our main objective was minimizing the biases. And when we are talking about minimizing the biases, there are certain components which we need to take into consideration, which we have seen right now. And it has to be one of the critical principle in research design, because if there is bias into your data, whatever the source of data you have collected from, if it is a biased one, probably your results will be of no use to conclude your research study. Then principle, as we saw that there were three principles: principle of randomization, principle of replication, and principle of local control. So what is this principle of replication? Principle of replication is an important aspect of research design that involves multiple replications of a study to enhance the reliability, robustness, and generalizability of the research findings. And when we say that we are going for replication, basically we say that we are going to repeat a study or experiment which are of similar methods, procedure. So usually when you are into your literature review phase, you come across a lot of such procedures, methods, which you think that yes, before I go for something innovative that is there in my mind, before I have my own framework, my own model, or I have my own methods or techniques to be defined, let me go through, or let me repeat the process of the actual methods and procedures which are in practice in week, and do my experiments onto that. When you do experiment onto the already existing or similar methods and procedures, you learn a lot from it. You understand that while these methods and procedures are implemented, what all assumptions, what all limitations, constraints are being taken into consideration. Reading it theoretically in a paper and actually performing the practical with a sample data set onto the onto it makes a lot of difference. The moment you start doing your work onto the existing processes, or you keep like if you say that this is a well-known algorithm and I want to implement it, when you are actually implementing that algorithm, or when you are conducting the same experiment which somebody else have earlier conducted, you understand a lot of minute details into it, and probably those minute details will be helpful for you to identify where you actually need to focus, because maybe that might be a very thin line between the standard procedures and something that is there into your mind, but that may make a revolutionary difference to the way the things are looked upon. So there is where you find the actual innovations into your if you're going through a proper scientific approach. So replication has its own significance. Often when I have interviewed various research students, and when I ask them that, okay, you have done your this research, have you implemented this method? Did you see what has happened while you implemented this method, which is already existing? And when the answer comes no, then it becomes very difficult for me to analyze the work that the individual has performed, because when you don't know what are the when you have not put your hands on, see, there are lots, you may have 10, 15, 20 techniques. I am not telling that you have to implement or do practical onto each and everything, but at least you have to pick up three. Whatever your problem statement is, at least three such similar methods or procedures you should pick up on, wherein you will replicate them into your research. Maybe that will form a very good paper, contribute to a very good paper publication also, that when you went through that entire replication, what were your observations. Maybe often it may not be onto very big data set, but on sample data set also, when you work it, it is going to give you certain results. And this results, when you see and compare it to the inferences that have been drawn into the standard earlier similar methods and procedures, you will be able to relate it. Okay, my results are very much consistently produced to what they all are already are saying. But if your results are not consistent to what they are stating, that means either you have made certain mistake, or maybe you have taken into consideration certain set of parameters which others would have not taken, and probably you have given a much better results, but they may not be the consistent with all other things. Then what is that difference that has brought into your research findings? Is there something scope, or it was just an error because of which you missed to comply with the consistent results that are need to be produced? So these are the things, and this is what is the principle of replication when it comes to the experimental research design methodology. So it is important to note that replication studies should be conducted with rigor, transparency. Transparency is very important because it is a standard procedure, you are replicating it, and if you don't have transparency, probably you yourself may get stuck into the procedure over there, and you may lose onto it. Like here again, ethics matters a lot. If you hide something and you say that your results are being produced much better or similar to this one, and this is your methodology, then probably you're doing something wrong into it. A replication has to tell that you're following this method, it is so transparently done, and you have to have all the attention to the methodological details that you have done while replicating it. Third important one is the principle of local control. Now, in this principle of local control, you just take into account the extraneous factor. Earlier also we saw the word extraneous factor, and I told you I'll explain you with an example further. So here in this extraneous factor, basically we take these into account to know the sources of variability. Which may vary deliberately over a wide range, and probably with that variability you need to arrive at certain conclusion through the experiments that you need to perform. Now, for understanding this variability, let me give you one example. Suppose you have to do a research wherein, for example, you have a company, say pizza a shop, and you'd say that now I'm going to declare that I am going to deliver pizza in 30 minutes or less, otherwise I will give it free. Now, before making this statement, you have to consider variable factors, or I will say factors which have a lot of variability into it. For example, if I say I want to deliver something in 30 minutes or less, I need to take into consideration the distance. If somebody is placing the order for pizza, what is the order volume that is being placed over there? I may also need to take into consideration that I have to deliver it in 30 minutes from this location to that location. That means if I get stuck into the traffic jam, am I going to deliver the pizza free of cost to them? Another thing is that yes, I am into such a remote location where certain weather conditions may affect my delivery. Then how I have to do? Now you have been given a problem statement that let it be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes or 45 minutes. I want to give an offer to my customer. Now you do a research onto this and tell me that how I can ensure my customer by studying all these parameters where there is a lot of variability. Order volume, there is a variability. Distance, there is a variability. Traffic jam, I cannot predict when, on which day, what can be the scenario. I cannot predict the weather in this case. So while after studying so many factors together and then coming to the conclusion that I will deliver pizza in 30 minutes or less, otherwise free, that makes a principle of local control. So in brief, through the principle of local control, we can eliminate the variability due to the extraneous factors from the experimental error. So here we understand that if some statement is being made, it's into a research, or if you are offering certain things in after a lot of research study, basically how many factors of variability you have to consider into this. The fourth type is the evaluation research. We have a complete different set of exercise onto this quantitative and qualitative research. So in evaluation research, we have quantitative research and we have the qualitative research. Quantitative research is going to help us to understand the causal or the correlation relationship between the variables through the testing of hypothesis, whereas qualitative research is going to help us to understand the phenomena within the real world context through the use of interviews and observations. So once we have seen that what are the different types of research, that is exploratory, we have seen descriptive, then we have seen this explanatory, experimental, and then the evaluation research. We will now get into understanding that what is the need for this research design. Why are we going to do this research design? Now, research design, like we have seen most of these factors like clarity of research objective. I'll just give one example to help you understand that when we say clarity of research objective, that means how we have to frame our research objective. One example I'll show you with that. Structured approach, then optimal resource utilization, ethical consideration. We have also discussed now in detail that what we mean by replicability and generalizability. Minimizing bias also means what? But in detail now we'll also explore what is validity and reliability, because this is more technical component that comes in, because minimizing bias and all these things, we have got an overview about this, what we mean by structural approach, all this we understand. But my more focus will be into helping you understand that how you are going to formulate a research objective and what we mean actually by when we make the statement. There should be clarity on the research objective, and in detail we'll explore this validity and reliability. So coming to the clarity of research objective, a well-defined research design helps clarify the research objective and research question. It provides a clear roadmap and structure for the study, ensuring that the research is focused and targeted. Now, what does this mean? Suppose if I say that I have an objective in front of me, where I say that I have defined my research objective to investigate the impact of technology on student performance. Now, when you look at this research objective, what we will say? Do you get any clarity on to investigating the impact of technology on student performance? Is it clear enough? Anybody? When we talk about clarity of research objective, can anybody tell that is it clear enough? Are the participants available? You can unmute and reply. Hello? You are not audible. Can you speak aloud?
It is not enough.
It is not enough. Why it is not enough?
Because there is a statement only, it says that investigate the impact of technology. But what is the process, or what are the steps, or what is the actual steps we are taking for the impact of technology, that is not clear.
Okay,
That's
can you reformulate it?
Investigate. No, it is not possible now.
Okay, okay then. Okay, but your answer is correct. Very good. It's very well explained that it is not enough to understand or have the clarity onto the research objective. So this research objective is not specific enough that because it does not define the variables, the context, or the specific aspect of technology being examined. You answered it very aptly that why this is not correct, because these are the three things that are missing into it: the variables, context, and the aspect of technology. Now how will we define it? Now we can redefine it by stating it that determine the effect of incorporating interactive online learning module on an academic performance of high school student in mathematics. So now if you look at this statement, in this statement, the revised objective is able to help us focus on the variables. What are the variables? Like incorporating interactive online learning module and academic performance. What is the specific context? It is the high school student. And what is the subject area in the subject of mathematics? So all these are clearly defined. So whenever we define our research objective and we say that there should be clarity, so basically these variables and the context and the subject area has to be very clearly defined, and that helps you to be more specific. You start narrowing the things. If you keep the things broad and start with your research, probably it will take longer time to complete your research because you will be taking your ship in the ocean. But the moment you start narrowing the things, you will know that where is your destination, how much, and your efforts will also reduce into that, because whenever we talk about research, it is endless, and if you start moving into an endless direction, you will not conclude to the research. So you have to be very very precise in defining the research objective. So this will help you to focus your research study and provide a clear direction for data collection, analysis and interpretation. Another need for research design is the structured approach, which will help you to conduct systematic and organized manner research design, and it will help you to create a framework which will help you to understand that how you will proceed for your data collection, what will be the steps that you will be incorporating into your data analysis, which techniques you are going to use for the data set you have collected for analyzing it, how you are going to gather the relevant and reliable information from different sources. All these things you will do with the help of the structured approach. Then again, while we are looking for need of research design, optimal research utilization is very very important, because this will help the researcher to make efficient use of the available resources, including time, funding, human resources. Because if you say that you are a student of geology and you have to do some field work and then collect the data from there, things may not be that easy. You have to have a human resource support into that. You may have to include funding because you have to travel and you have to collect the data from the field. So many such things come into the picture the moment we start thinking about the resources. So you have to ensure that data collection methods are appropriately selected. Your data analysis techniques are also chosen in such a way that you address the research questions effectively. Then ethical consideration, this we have discussed earlier also. We have to ensure that we ensure the confidentiality and privacy of all the procedures that we are going to adopt, and protect the rights and well-being of the participants who are the participant into your study. Then again we have discussed this replicability and generalizability. That in replicability we say that whatever the research design we have selected, it facilitates the replication of studies, providing detailed methodology that can be followed by other researchers. That means here it is saying that when I am giving my research design, I am telling that this is how I am adopting the methodology. You also can replicate it and you can see how the things come up. And when you say that your research is being designed in such a way that you have applied your research onto certain sample data, the same when you apply to the larger population, you will get the results very much similar, maybe into the same, into the different context of the population. You minimize the bias, this also we have discussed. And then last one is the validity and reliability. When we talk about validity, means we are validating our research objective. And when we talk about reliability, we are talking about the results that are consistent. So if I say that I have created a model and my model says that when you apply this model onto this particular area for which this model is being created, you will get results which are 92%. You can depend on the results 92%. So if in one circumstance I am saying 92%, then in all other circumstances it should be near about to that 90 to 91% that we are telling about. So your result should be consistent. It cannot be that I am claiming my model in a particular set of environment or constraints for 92% and similar situation it comes out to be 72%. It cannot be like that. So they have to be consistent over there. So whenever we talk about a research design and the components like validity and reliability come into the picture, we need to see that our research design should be such robust that it increases the validity and reliability of the study by incorporating appropriate methods and techniques. So it will help you to ensure that the findings are accurately reflecting the research objectives and are consistent and reproducible. Now, when it comes to validity, there are different types of validity. The very first type of validity, which is there, because I am sure most of you are in a process of creating your own research proposals. And when we use these words like validity and reliability and all those things, so where exactly we are going to apply these things? So here, one thing that we see is the content validity. You will be requiring a content. Your content validity of research will measure, you have to assess the content validity of research measures and instruments by ensuring the comprehensively which covers the intended constructs of the variables being measured. So whatever content validity you are focusing onto it, you need to ensure that you have taken expert reviews, and where subject matter experts review the items or question to determine their relevance and representativeness. Now, for us, it is very easy. Like when you say that you are doing research, and today, with the help of internet, it is possible for us to connect it to a lot of people. So you can create your own blogs. You can start getting certain inputs from various social media also by, and take expert reviews. Usually when you present your topic, you can find out forums, research groups which are working into that area, and you can connect to that forums, and you can post your questions to them, and they will help you to determine that in which directions you are moving it, and that you can present as a supplementary support for your content validity that you are presenting during your presentation of your research. So that way you can get the content validity done. Now, to elaborate it into a more with the help of an example, let us take one a research objective over here to understand how this content validity works. Suppose we want to develop a survey questionnaire to measure job satisfaction among employees in a specific industry. So if the survey has to be conducted, then first thing that we will look into the content validity is the item generation. A researcher aims to develop a comprehensive survey questionnaire that adequately captures this construct of the job satisfaction. So, first thing. Second, they being by generating a pool of potential item that represents various dimensions of job satisfaction. So, salary, work-life balance, career advancement opportunities, relationship with the colleagues, all these are going to impact your job satisfaction over there. So how you are capturing these items in your contents and then you are validating them, that matters over there. Then you take expert reviews, as we discussed, that you can select a panel of experts in the field of that organization, psychology and job satisfaction. These experts will go through the forms that have been created. Like you all will experience that. Suppose you have decided that you will create a survey form for your research objective, then in that case you want to understand that whether all the contents that I have furnished into my form, are they good enough to reach my research objective. Probably you might be new into that field, or you may not have that much experience to understand whether you have captured all those necessary variables. Probably this expert review will help you to validate your contents into the form and give you the more clarity on the relevance and representativeness of the data that is available, that is furnished into the form. Then provide feedback. Once you have designed your form, you discuss with the expert and they may give you good suggestions that will help you to revise your form, and maybe it will help you to restructure your form in such a way that you are actually focusing onto the different aspects of job satisfaction rather than onto certain same redundant entities are being captured into the for survey form. So whenever you are designing your form, this expert reviews are going to matter a lot. In your research report, you have to bring into this that if it will be a very general question. Have you validated your research work when you created this form? Who was the expert who gave you a go through all the components into your form and said that yes, this is to be done? Then there you should be open enough to tell that yes, initially I designed this form A, then I revised it to the second version of this form, third, 10th version of this form. You have to show the efforts that you have put into create the contents into the form designing, and then reaching to the precise form with the help of the expert reviews. That all this usually most of you take effort in this direction, but you do not project it into your research work that you are doing it, and your efforts are not seen. And probably if your efforts are not seen, you may not get the response, because you at the back end, you know what effort you have put in, but you have not presented it to the reviewer. He may think about that, okay, if this form is designed, what a great deal into this form, what a great deal into this form is to be projected by you, and then that will tell in that this form is after a very good expert review you have done it. Once the expert reviews were received, feedbacks were received, even your participants can be a very good feedback giver to you, because probably before distributing, say you want 1,000 samples, 1,000 forms to be filled in, but you may give it to 10 people first, of different um, characteristics, I can say, like somebody is experienced into that field, somebody is less experienced into that field, or something like that. You may create your 10 samples, and when you give your form to them, you come to know that what difficulty they are finding while filling that form, or how more readability and clarity has to be brought into the form, that you capture into, and you bring the item revision into your forms. Then you modify the wordings, you remove the ambiguous phrases, because if the things are not understood, you have your own understanding about the problem statement. Day and night you are into your research problem, but somebody whom you are giving it to fill in, he may not think the way you are thinking, or the way you have designed that particular question. The moment you give it to certain sample 8-10 people, you come to know that yes, the way I was thinking is not understood by this question. That means I need to remove the ambiguity into the phrases that have been created, and I need to restructure this problem statement again, and I need to restructure the questions or the content that I have to capture from this particular form. And then when you do that, is every participant is consistently understanding the same things that you are trying to bring into it? Because we know it's a language. In language there are so many words and phrases which may be captured by different people very differently, and are they responding to your answers that effectively? Usually, then whenever you create survey forms, and particularly when it is an online survey form, to avoid this ambiguity, often radio buttons, text fields are being provided, so you can use these techniques to capture the contents aptly. Then consensus. The revised set of items is again shared to the expert panel for further evaluation. And after discussing with the experts, you can provide additional feedback onto the job satisfactions. In this example, we had started with the job satisfaction constructs and validity about that. Then we do pilot testing, and after that pilot testing, we ensure that the feedback and the clarity that we have received is helping the final adjustments to the questionnaire if necessary. Once your final questionnaire is ready, then the content validity is almost done. Pilot testing is also fine, and then you have an accurate capture for the constructs of job satisfaction. By following this process, you as a researcher ensure that the content validity has been captured, and the pilot testing, the elimination of ambiguity, the comprehensiveness of the questionnaire has been achieved. Once your content validity is done, then comes the face validity. Now, what is this face validity? Face validity assessment is to ensure that the researcher measures measures appear to measure the intended construct on the surface. This can be achieved by seeking feedback from the participants or expert to assess whether the items or questions appear relevant and aligned with the construct being studied. So in this face validity, let me take the example of say from the field of chemistry. Now, in the field of chemistry, the objective, suppose, is to design a chemistry research, demonstrate uh, that the development of a chemical reaction procedure. We want to demonstrate through the development, new development of a I missed again the word new development of a chemical reaction procedure. So, in this, let me set an research objective. The objective here will be to develop a procedure for synthesizing a new organic compound through a series of chemical reaction. Now let us understand that with this research objective, what we mean by setting up face validity. Now here, reaction selection. Now the researcher chooses a series of chemical reaction based on their knowledge of organic chemistry and desired synthesis target. The selected reactions are those commonly used in the field known and to yield the desired product. So whenever we say that we start with the face validity, say now in the example of this new synthesis of the chemical reaction selection, which are the standard procedure, standard one in that particular field, we are capturing that. Then the procedural development will be to carry out step-by-step procedures for the selected reactions and then include necessary reagents, reaction conditions, and specific instructions for each reaction step. Then perform the face validity assessment to it that will help to seek researchers input from colleagues or expert, because you are doing that, you are working onto it, but you have a lot of people who work into that area and you need to take certain insight from these people. They will be help you to provide with the expert remarks that will give you clarity, feasibility and alignment with the established chemical principles. Because when we are doing certain things, probably if our reading is limited, we have not explored that component of that particular chemical which others must have gone through. Immediately when you discussed these things with them, the clarity comes to you. The expert feedback again in this case will matter, which will help you to get more understanding of the likelihood of achieving the desired product. Then you go for the procedure refinement. You can modify the chemical reactions so that you have, or experiments that you have defined earlier. Based on the feedback, you may improve the face validity of the procedure. So the final procedure here will be that the revised procedure will be incorporating the feedback and suggestions from the experts to consider the face validity. So it will give a precise instructions for the synthesizing of the desired organic product, and then you can go for engaging yourself into find approach into this particular area. Another validity is the criterion validity. In criterion validity, we compare the scores obtained from research measures with the established criteria or gold standards. Whenever we do research and we are measuring certain variables, we know that there are certain standard values. So how we compare across this set standards, this criterion validity will help us to do that. For example, if we say that we want to set a criterion validity to compare the scores obtained from a new mathematics assessment with those obtained from a established and widely accepted assessment of a student, then in that case we see that here first of all we will define a research objective where we'll develop a new mathematics assessment for measuring problem solving skill in the middle school students. The assessment development will be done for this. Then we establish the assessment. This establishing the assessment will involve the standardized test or existing assessment used into the skill into the school to analyze the problem solving skills into the middle school students, and then which will be serving as a criterion measure for us. Then we go for the participation selection through sampling methods, which will be representing a larger population. Then we go for the administration of this assessment. When we say we go for the administration of this assessment, it is about both the new mathematic assessments and the established assessment. And here comes the criterion measure. The order of administration has to counterbalance the control of any potential order effects. And with the help of scoring, you will be able to understand that yes, this rubrics have helped me to guide, help me or has given me the guideline to be provided for such problems. So care has to be taken that we ensure consistent and accurate scoring for this criterion validity, and then perform data analysis onto it using certain statistical techniques. And finally, we can conclude that the criterion validity in this example is that the new mathematic assessment is evaluated by examining the correlation between the scores obtained from the new assessment and the established assessment. So likewise, we see that a high correlation that will be obtained in this case, suppose across a criterion validity will suggest that the new assessment is measuring problem solving skill in a manner is consistent with the established manner. Then you make the interpretation, and based on that interpretation you say that as we saw that we got high correlation, then it can be concluded that high correlation is there. It provides the evidence that whatever the new assessment techniques you have adopted, it gives very much similar results to the already established one, and then you can take upon a decision whether it can be adopted for the measurement or not. Another validity that comes is the construct validity. So it helps in examining the degree to which the measures we measure the intended construct. So this can be usually done with the techniques like factor analysis, confirmatory factor analysis, structural equation modeling, which will help you to determine the underlying structure and relationship among the variables. Then the third one, at one of the slides, when we started with the experimental research design, I came across the word internal validity, where I said that we'll see further what we mean by internal validity. So it is basically ensuring the validity by minimizing the compounding factors or alternative explanation for the observed relationship between the variables. Again, as we saw, again in the case of that principle of randomization, we came across this. Also, we discussed the external validity in that context, where we confirmed upon how generalizability of the research can be done with the help of the external validity. So researchers with the help of internal and external validity can ensure that their research techniques using random sampling can be very well achieved. Now again, how this internal validity works, I'll again quickly take a small example where we will say that suppose if we want to establish internal validity with the help of two groups, like one experimental group that receives instruction using active learning method, and another a control group that receives a traditional lecture based instruction. Now we want to have these two groups with us, and both these groups we are going to assume that we have similar characteristics and academic background in this group. We also will ensure that, see, this is what we are talking about, the assumptions that they have the same class environment, we have the same instructor, same course material. But now what we are going to change, we are going to change only the method of instruction. That is, in one we are having the active learning method, and in the other one we are having the traditional lecture based, and with that we are trying to understand that how this internal validity will be assessed. Now by controlling the extraneous variables using random assignment, here the researcher is minimizing the influence of the compounding factor, and he is increasing the internal validity of the study. So this statement itself helps us to understand that what we mean by the internal validity. Now to achieve that, the researcher will start collecting the data on student engagement, their performances, exam scores, participations throughout the courses. And then the next validity, that is once we have done with the validity, the next is the reliability. In the reliability we have the test retest reliability. Again, when we started with validity, where we are going to validate our research objective. And when we talk about the reliability, that how reliable you will be onto the findings that you have got. So we have to assess the stability and consistency of the research measures over time by conducting test retest reliability analysis, which involves administrating the measures to the same participants at two different time points and examining the correlation between their score. For example, if you say that you are doing some research into the food industry, and you say that okay, I will take one participant and test the that how this product is, or how this food item which is researched and brought into the market is liked by somebody. So if you say that somebody, if you're giving an item, for example, say when coffee was launched, so there were stalls which were kept outside the supermarkets, because long back, when 40 years back, suppose if this coffee was delivered free of cost to the people outside the supermarket, that means cost of coffee and who will actually going to go to the supermarket, that was thought of, and then this coffee was made available to them. And then if you are giving coffee to somebody at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the evening, will have a different reaction by the reaction that has been captured, then you are giving coffee to somebody at 1 o'clock into the afternoon. So when we talk about test retest reliability, and we say that we are going to administer the same measure to the same participant at two different time points, and then we are going to establish the correlation between their scores, it basically means that, so high correlation indicates good test retest reliability. And next is the inter-rater reliability. In inter-rater reliability, we say that we evaluate the inter-rater reliability when multiple observers or raters are involved in the data collection or coding. So in this case, we say we may have one observer, we may have to observe multiple observers, and then we are trying to assess by comparing the ratings or observations made by different raters and calculating the degree between them using different techniques. One such technique is a Cohen's-Kappa or inter-class correlation coefficients, which you can capture and comment onto the inter-rater reliability. The next reliability is the internal consistency reliability, where we evaluate the internal consistency of the research measures by examining the degree of correlation among the items within the same scale or instrument. And the commonly used technique is the Converge alpha or the split half reliability analysis. So here again I'll take a quick example, because when we say that okay, what is this new technique and how it is going to work, but if we relate it to the example, immediately we understand that yes, I myself is doing something similar to in my research, and probably I can use this technique while I am assessing my research objective over there. So here let us again take a small example where we are trying to develop a questionnaire to measure the job satisfaction among the employees in the company. Now when you design your questionnaire, it may consist of 10 items, and the participants have to respond to it using a Likert scale ranging from say I strongly disagree to strongly agree. Now if you put all the questions in the same format, when it comes to the assessment, it will be very easy for you to assessment. Otherwise you'll take some questions in the format of agree, strongly agree, and something very descriptive question and all those things. Then when you capture all those 10 items, probably you will find difficulty, and then relating all those answers will be difficult. So whenever you go for forming your questionnaires, you have to be very particular in adopting one particular technique of designing it, so that the scale which you're going to use for and the metrics that will be captured will be very easy to assess over there. Now here in this case, now the researcher wants to assess the internal consistency reliability of the questionnaire. So what he will do to measure the internal consistency reliability, the researcher will collect responses from say 100 employees who completed the questionnaire. The data are then analyzed using a statistical method called Converge alpha. Now, what is this Converge coefficient? It is going to help you to assess the degree of internal consistency among the items in the questionnaire. See now, because you have developed your questionnaire and somebody will ask you that what is the internal consistency of your questionnaire, then what is the metric, the measure that you're going to support your answer with? It is the Converge alpha. So Converge alpha value will say above 0.70, it is generally considered to be one of the acceptable reliable scale. Now, in this example, if you see that after analyzing the data, you obtain a value of 0.85. So this indicates that you have got a high level of internal consistency, and probably the question items that are placed into your questionnaire are consistently measuring the construct of job satisfaction. So your objective was to measure job satisfaction. You have designed a questionnaire. You want to ensure that all the items are consistently measuring to one construct, that is of job satisfaction. Then what is the metric that you're going to use is the converge alpha, and that will help you to identify what is the internal consistency of your reliability. So in this example, we saw that internal consistency is assessed by measuring the agreement or consistency among the items within the questionnaire. So the moment you start doing this, you will see that you yourself, before floating out your questionnaire, will be confident enough. And this is a part of, again, a very big part of your research, where you have taken all these efforts and then distributed your questionnaire. So a high converge coefficient indicates greater internal consistency, suggesting that the items are measuring the same underlying constructs over there. Another form of reliability is the parallel forms reliability, where you have to employ parallel form reliability when multiple versions of the same measures are used to assess the same construct. So this involves administrating different but equivalent version of the measure of the same participants and examining the degree of correlation between their score. For example, suppose a researcher want to access mathematical abilities of the student using two different versions of math tests, like form A and form B. The researcher aims to determine the parallel form reliability of the two forms. So what he will do, he will ensure that at the same time 50% of the students are given form A and 50% are given form B. So here the researcher has to administer that form A, form B to a sample of 50 students, say, are which are in the similar in terms of age, grade level, and mathematical background are given to them. The order of administration is counterbalanced, meaning the half of the students receive half of the cost. After collecting the data, the researcher analyzes the score both. To assess the reliability, a statistical method called correlation coefficient will be used, and the researcher calculates the correlation between the scores of form A and form B. Once he obtains the correlation, for example, he gets a value of 0.90 between the scores of form A and form B, then in that case, he can suggest that a strong positive relationship exists between the two tests, suggesting that they are parallel and yield consistent results in measuring the mathematical abilities. So in this example, we saw that parallel form reliability is assessed by administering two different but equivalent test forms to the same students. The higher correlation coefficient indicates that the two forms are measuring same constructs of the mathematical ability. And by employing these methods and techniques, you can ensure that once you have done with content validity, you have done with your face validity, you have checked for different kinds of reliability, you ensure that the validity and reliability of your research design, measures, and instruments are well defined. They are enhancing the credibility and trustworthiness of your findings. This is very important question that you need to address. And when you support your findings, when you support the efforts that you have put in all the things that you have done with each of this, just imagine your research proposal where everywhere you're able to relate that yes, in validity we saw this many types of validity, at least two you have deployed at your end in your research, and then you are having certain metrics to define how good is the validity. You have deployed the reliability at certain reliability constructs at some points, and then you are defining how that reliability has been captured, and then you are producing your result. It will definitely enhance the credibility and trustworthiness of your findings, and you yourself will have a satisfaction that yes, if I'm comparing, if I have to produce this findings, I myself is confident enough to produce it. So in summary, we see that research design, so many things we came across, though I have tried to shorten it as much as possible, because there are so many things when you go into each and every detail aspect of it. But something that I found, felt that yes, this needs to be importantly addressed. I have tried to capture that into this presentation. So in research design, it is very crucial for guiding the research process, ensuring the validity and reliability of the findings, minimizing biases. You have to ensure the optimal utilization of your resources. So it is a fundamental component. Your research design is a fundamental component of your research study, which is going to enable researchers to address their objective effectively and make meaningful contribution to the field of study. You just look at the research design as a blueprint. Just like if you want to build your house, you have a plot in front of you and you have your blueprint of your house, and then you are sure that every dimension is very clearly defined. Where will be my entrance, what will be the size of the door, how big will be the windows, what will be the height of the ceiling. Everything comes into that blueprint. The same thing you have to ensure into your research design by ensuring the different components have been addressed effectively, by ensuring the different principles have been into different approaches of your research design have been captured carefully. So with this, I stop for today. Quantitative and qualitative we were supposed to conduct today, but this itself went too long, and I want to address any questions if with this respect, so that in next class on Monday we will touch on to the quantitative and qualitative research design with the other topic over there. So with this, I conclude that I have done with my topic for today, and I am open for the questions now.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Dr. Chitra, ma'am.
I think it went too exhaustive or too much monotonous, but too many topics to be covered. But I hope question answer sessions will help us to elaborate more onto this.
Yes. The session is open for any questions from the participants, please.
Hi, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening.
Ma'am, thank you. Firstly, thank you so much. Even though, I absolutely agree with you, it was quietly monotonous. See, ma'am, the thing is that, but your efforts and everything, commendable. It's excellent. Can you please share the presentation? Because according to me, I don't know about the other participants, but it was a bit too fast, because maybe I'm coming back after a couple of years in academics. So to understand each and everything, I really needed,
No, I
as you were
agree it
explaining,
was
I
fast
was
because
going through
I
the
have a
slides
time
as well.
constraint with me. Yeah, I'll
Sorry?
share you the link of my slide. You can download from there. I'll share it with the coordinator. I'll give it to the coordinator. They'll share it with you.
Thank you, thank you. That means a lot. Another a quick question, please, ma'am.
Yeah.
I surely I believe you must be quite busy and all, but can you just suggest any YouTube small channels, or any way I can just whenever I have time, I can just browse on some information, because I believe only going through this presentation won't help me, right?
Yeah. See, I'll suggest you that you can take this presentation as a guideline, and then there are certain standard books on research methodology. You prefer
Like,
that? YouTube, I myself have not explored, but I'll go through which matches to this content, and then I'll suggest you. But I myself have not referred to any YouTube content. In fact, I tried going through certain content, but then I will also tell you that certain are misleading, because basically when it comes to a pure research design thing, and then certain videos I found that they are misleading also, because what actually has been told into the standard procedures, they vary from that. Then it may confuse you in that aspect. I'll just see if some good videos I come across, I'll definitely share with you.
or the list of books also, as you mentioned earlier.
Hi, yes. One standard book, that is the Kothari book for research
Kothari,
methodology.
yeah. CK
Yeah.
Kothari, yeah. Okay, good. I got that. Yeah.
Yeah, online also,
Great,
you
then,
just
great.
Google it, you will get the PDF also
Yes,
online.
I got it. Yes, right. Absolutely. I got that one. Okay,
But
thank you so much.
but then your like in your like subject specific research methodology books are also there. So if you go to look into your subject specific research methodology book, that will be much useful to you.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll try to find that.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any more
Any other
questions?
question? Yes.
Okay, so if there are no questions, shall we end the session, ma'am?
Ma'am, actually subject specific books, if you are there, they are, I mean, which publication books are there?
You're looking into which subject? Because I am from computer background, but I can tell you, it's not very easy for me to tell you, but you can consult to your subject experts, and then they may help you out that in that particular field. Particularly if you are looking for some guide into that area, they will be more appropriate person to tell you in that subject which research methodology books you should explore.
Madam, which book is best for CSC domain?
In CS domain, basically today now, if you're looking into you start exploring research like your this data science books are there. Explains the entire methodology, like, data science, design processes. They help you a lot into getting into these things. Our data collection and data analysis, there I will be touching. I'll be taking more of the examples, which will be understood easily by others also. But at that time, I will put the references of that book, so it will be more specific to all of you. That
Okay.
if you are interested in, I'll add those there over there.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Any other questions like from the content that has been covered today, like?
Ma'am, my question is over there. Before 2 days ago, I am not able to join these classes. So how to
Okay.
cover this previous section?
Previous section, there was a different speaker for us 2 days. I think
Ma'am,
they must have shared certain contents with the organizer.
no, ma'am, we are going to share the recordings of the previous sessions. So the candidates, all of you can go through that at your leisure.
Sir, which
So,
platform I use?
Sir,
we,
when share
we shall be sending the video recordings, ma'am. We will be sending the links to the recordings.
Okay, okay.
with any other criteria, sir?
Sorry?
You are saying just now we are sharing some links for previous videos, and now this session is happen that links. So share with mail and any other criteria.
Criteria. Okay, we'll be sharing all the details, sir. We'll be sharing the details with you
Within
very soon.
uh,
Very soon. It's in process. It's in process, but it will be shared very soon. And we will be updating you as soon as it is shared.
okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, yes. Okay. Any more questions?
No, sir.
Okay. All right.
Wonderful
So,
section.
okay. So, Professor Dr. Chitra Desai, ma'am, on behalf of the JSPM University Pune, I take this opportunity to express my gratitude for your insightful online session today on research design. And as you mentioned, we could not complete the second half, but yes, although the session was quite extensive, but it was, your expertise and knowledge were quite too impressive, and I believe everybody could learn a lot from your session today. So, and again, the examples or the explanations that you have given, it has made understanding research design more easier along with their applications. So the interactive discussions or these were very engaging at the end of the session that we had. So thank you again, once again, ma'am, for enriching our understanding on research design. and I'm sure the participants would have a lot to take home from your session today. And we'll be meeting on Monday with Dr. Chitra Desai ma'am again, and she would be taking a session on data collection and analysis. I believe ma'am would be continuing with qualitative and
Yes,
quantitative
yes. First
research.
we'll cover qualitative and quantitative,
Yes,
and then
and
we'll go for data analysis, data collection and analysis.
yes, data collection, analysis, measurement, and
In
sampling.
fact,
That
in
is
that
our
quantitative and qualitative also, I have tried to make it more elaborative. I have 50
yes.
plus slides into that also with
Okay.
examples. So we'll see how it goes. But I want to touch minute details into it because it should actually help the candidate. Because
Okay.
only knowing this theoretical term, then it is very easy to tell what is quantitative and qualitative, and the thing is over. But then I just want to take it in depth so that when you apply it to your research problem, it helps you out with certain examples. And good that you will be provided with the videos. So again, you can go back and recordings, and you can go back and just related to your problem statements and refine the things and or apply those things. So thank you again. Thank you all.
Okay. Okay. So thank you, ma'am, and thank you all the participants for joining in. And
Yes, Gupta
we
sir,
look
we are
Thank you,
forward
ma'am.
also.
to. Okay, we look forward to seeing you on Monday, and have a great weekend. Thank you.
Yeah, hello.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you all.